So I'm going to start by asking who here has been to Garden Walk Buffalo? Eh, about half the people. And if you haven't been, what are you waiting for? I started going about 20 years ago. And little history about Garden Walk Buffalo. It's America's largest garden tour. Um, it's the last Saturday and Sunday in July from 10 to 4, rain or shine. There's over 300 gardens, and the gardens change every year based on who wants to sign up and who does it this year or who drops out, who new people come on. It's free. It's self-guided. They have maps online and in print. There are shuttles, and it's been running for 30 years. So if you're interested in going, they put out a guide. If you go to gardensbuffaloniagara.com, they show all of the information you need, but they put out a guide both online and in paper. So the website will tell you where to go if you want to pick up a paper guide. And in the guide, they have map, and as you can see, they've broken it down into different areas because with over 300 gardens, there is no way you're going to see them all in a day. I mean, I just don't really think that's possible. I don't even try. Like this year, we went to section B. So you see here, map B. When you go farther in the guide, they blow it up and they show you where all of the actual houses are that are open. And the guide also has a list of addresses and a description of what's in that garden. So we use this, we pick a section and then run around and see as many gardens as we can. And as you can see, there's a lot of them that are clustered together. So I do a lot of garden walks, but this one is nice because there's so many gardens in such a small area that you can really cover a lot of ground in one day. So why go to Buffalo Garden Walk? Obviously, to see the beautiful gardens, but also it's really educational. You can see specific plants that are growing in our climate. So unlike seeing a lot of beautiful things in magazines, here you're seeing it where we live. So you know if they grow it in Buffalo, we can probably grow it here. You can see different plant combinations, how they put them together, design ideas, what to do with small spaces. A lot of the gardens in Buffalo are city lots. They're very small, but they do amazing things in these small spaces. What do they do about privacy, garden sheds, container plantings, garden art, crafts? Also, as you're walking around, Buffalo has beautiful architecture. I hadn't realized it before I had gone on these garden walks, but Buffalo is a beautiful city full of a lot of old buildings, old architecture. It's really a visual feast. They have great restaurants. So at the end of doing the garden tour every year, we go out, celebrate, and have a nice restaurant. But one of the best things is you can talk to the garden creators. So here's some of the people, and they are more than happy to answer your questions about do they bring things in for the winter? What kind of fertilizer do they use? How long has this thing been growing? All the questions, and they're very happy to talk, answer your questions. So once you go around, every open garden has a side out front that lets you know the front, the back, or the side. So some of them are front only, and then some of them say, come on and see the back. Then when you arrive, usually, but not always, the owner is there to greet people and show you around and answer any questions. Sometimes it's not, but Buffalo Garden Walk is pretty popular. So if you've gone on garden tours before, and I'd like to do them all, Buffalo has the biggest crowds, I think. So a lot of times, some places are pretty crowded and some places aren't. The owner might just be sitting in the backyard and you walk around, talk, chat, ask all the questions. So just in looking here, so we're going to start with just looking at some of the front yards in Buffalo. And like I said, a lot of it is just the beautiful architecture. If you look at all the trim on this house, I mean, they've really brought out all the details. They've got fancy curtains, a little carpet down the front. People do amazing things with their yards. One of the things I like is a lot of the owners match their plantings to their house color. So here we've got this nice burgundy pink with matching flowers. Here, this woman's got red trim with a lot of red flowers. Here, the yellow and orange. The daylilies complement that perfectly. Once again, a nice match between the flowers, plants, and the house. This is called the Ukraine house, blue and yellow. And this one I thought was interesting. It had all this dark trim and all of these dark foliage plants and dark pots. So they were really going for almost a goth effect. Your classic traditional front yard. And one thing I like about Buffalo is a lot of color. People there are not afraid of color. Houses are painted brightly. Porches are done up in lots of different tones. So you can be bold in Buffalo. And sometimes, like in this, only the front yard's open. The owner will just be sitting there on the front porch, happy to chat with you. And you can get a lot of ideas for what to do with your own patio from looking at what they have done. Once again, lots of color. And in some cases, a bit of whimsy. So here's color and lots of flamingos. And also I noticed on Buffalo Garden Walk, a lot of the owners have a party on Garden Walk Day and they invite a lot of their friends over. I just really related to this person because they decorated their fire escape with hanging baskets all up and down. And I thought, oh, that's me. When you run out of space, just keep adding on more plants. Buffalo, some of the neighborhoods have lovely medians that have been planted up by the city or by the neighborhood. So it's not just private front yards. And this is like the hell strip. Have you ever seen such a nice hell strip? That's the area between the road and the sidewalk, that narrow, like 5-foot section. People have done amazing things with their hell strips. You can just get, I'd like to look at the combinations, and Buffalo knows that their garden walk is the end of July, and a lot of gardens are optimized for the end of July. But just really nice combinations, things you wouldn't necessarily think of doing yourself. This is a lot of annuals. What a sight. And I think these three are like the three sisters of the Indian, you know, Shasta daisies, cone flowers, and black-eyed Susans. I mean, they're peaking in July, everybody has them. Pots and planters. If you want to get some ideas, I could have done a whole presentation just on pots and planters because everybody does them different and they're all beautiful. I mean, this is only 2 plants, but I just love the way they complemented each other with the purple spiderwort. And this is 2 kinds of begonias, just orange and red. And here they've done grasses in container, which is something I wouldn't necessarily think of doing, but you know, they pulled it off pretty well. Nice feathery grasses there. Nice trailing plants. And here, this owner has orange and turquoise, and you can see they've matched the pots to their house. And then if you go around back, the same house, same thing again with all the different containers and blues and oranges, keeping it all consistent. And here you have succulents. Many people have houseplants that they bring out to enjoy the summer weather. Thought this was interesting. The person has shepherd's crooks inside their containers. So they use the heavy base of the planter to then do hanging baskets. So it really creates a lot of visual impact. I was looking at this and realized what I did wrong with my own garden. I have cannas and pots, but I have the tall cannas and they just kind of always look gangly. And then I saw this and I was like, ah, that's what I need to do. I need to get the short meaty ones because they look much better. Containers, someone took a quirky old chair, fitted it with a pot, and here you go. Somebody else just, painted it up, makes a nice container. Like I said, you'll get a million ideas going on Buffalo Garden Walk. Somebody planted up their father's old work shoes. This person had a small city lot, but they really wanted to have salads, so they got this set up and they grow their own salads right there in you can see it's a very small footprint, but yet look at all the stuff they have growing. And then just right next to that, the person also has their tomatoes in cages. So they just had a tiny little city lot, but with containers, they were able to grow vegetables. This person got creative with concrete block and made planters for that little strip between the houses. Here they had them done in white. They painted them white. And here's another section where they painted them in black. And this is nice low-cost solutions to planter problems. Concrete blocks are pretty cheap. More blocks planted up with succulents. And this garden, you can see they don't have any ground, so they took that narrow strip between the houses and they just put it chock full of planters. They don't have ground, but it doesn't stop them from gardening. And there's another one, same thing. There's no ground there, but they use all the pots to have maximum foliage impact. There are some community gardens on the tour, and in this case, you could ask if you were interested in doing raised beds. They had people there that can tell you the advantages of raised beds, how they did it, what worked, what didn't work. This is also in the community garden, and I like the way that it's just a plywood box, but you can see they just took the ends of like 2x4s and 2x6s and just chopped them all up and decorated the outside of that, made it really quirky looking. This is another case of houseplants having a summer vacation on the balcony. And Buffalo has a lot of second store balconies on the homes, just the way they're designed. And you will see a lot of houseplants having a vacation. Here's another one where they brought out all of their cactuses and then they sit on the steps all summer long. And the owners, if you ask them, they'll be happy to tell you when they do it, when they bring them in, what are the issues. It's great to ask people who've actually done it. And then, of course, the city of Buffalo also has nice public planters. And if you haven't been to Buffalo in a long time, they really have improved the city. I think it really is having a resurgence, and they're doing a lot to beautify the downtown area. Hanging baskets and window boxes. I mean, I just want to know, how do you get them that big? Must be lots of fertilizer. That would be me. If I had a small lot, I would pack it full of hanging baskets. You can see this person, it's a labor of love, all these plants. Somebody has collections, all nice and matching. And there are lots and lots of window boxes. So you can get ideas from looking at what they've done. Some of the plants you'll recognize. And here on the top, they have begonias in the window box that match the impatiens that are at the bottom. Same colors, different plants. This house had beautiful window boxes all the way around, and they kept a consistent planting scheme in all the different window boxes. And as you go around the corner, you can see here they have a double-decker window box, which I hadn't seen before, but lots of color from that double-decker window box. You don't need to see out the window, do you? But I just love the exuberance of these annuals. Same thing here. You actually have cannas in a window box. And in addition to window boxes, I saw a lot of people hanging window boxes on their fence, which is a nice way to dress up the fence. So here they put hanging baskets and these other things fence mounted. Why have a boring fence when you can dress it up? Can't even see what the planter looks like here. It was so densely planted. Arts and crafts. You will see a lot of art and a lot of things that people have crafted themselves in their gardens. So it goes everything from fine art like this. Here's this beautiful bird sculpture. So you go from fine art to folk art. Here you've got you see a lot of this repurposed tools that have been welded into garden animals. Or I thought this was kind of fun. Instead of having a stately lion, they gave him a makeover. Summer makeover. And here I love all the flamingos in the background. So people just have their own sense of humor and they decorate their gardens in a very personalized way. This person collected heart rocks, and this was their display. Every time they go on vacation, go to the beach, they will get different rocks, and I thought, what a lovely way to display them. And if you ask where they bought them, I saw this particular uh, rock sculpture, several instances like this, and they all said that they bought it at this one nursery. I can't remember now, Put a Plant on it or one. Yeah, but that's a nice thing. You see something you like, you can say, oh, where did you get that? And they can tell you, and it's usually a local garden center. Some people have the traditional gnomes. There was one garden that had lots and lots of different rabbits that they'd collected. Bicycle art is popular, and often they coordinate the color of the bike with the plants that are next door. Tricycle. Sometimes you have to remember to look up to see the weather vanes. And sometimes they have the weather vanes just mounted inside the garden. A lot of people are good painters and they do things like take a tiny little door and dress it up with paint. And in this one garden, the artist had was painting this giant serpent all the way through. And so this was a thing, but when you ran around the corner, there's the artist. She was actually painting it while we were there. So that was interesting to watch. So there was some modern art. And this was an old dragon that the owner said came with the house when they bought it like 30 years ago. So they have no idea how old it was, but I thought he was pretty cute. I have been going on the Buffalo Garden Walk for about 20 years now. And I just was pointing this out. This is the same garden about maybe 7 years apart. So on the left, you can see that they were collecting the glass flower art that people make with repurposed glass objects. And then on the right, you can see how he changed his planting to add the grasses and the vines growing behind, and it just looks so much more grounded once he put all the plants around it. So that's the other reason it's kind of fun to go to the garden walk year after year, as you see changes that people have made in time. People edge their gardens with all kinds of things. Some people like shells. Here's a bunch of prayer flags. I'm not sure if it's Tibetan prayer flags. I mean, it kind of looks like laundry. It's not. But, you know, just neat decoration, stuff you're going to see that's quite unusual. The framed succulents, I saw several of those. One year I might try it. I thought that was really nice, one of the better selections. And they'll tell you, you talk to the owners, one guy has it, he does, this guy, I think he said he brings his in, but other people said they leave it out year round. They just squirt it with a hose once a week. I think the trick is to go with drought tolerant plants like succulents. And of course, being buffalo, there are a lot of buffaloes. A lot of buffaloes everywhere. There's also city art as you're walking around. Just kind of fun, whimsical things in people's backyards. So everybody has a different taste, right? I love these things where they take the silverware and they repurpose them. These I think was knife handles, but I've seen a lot of these flowers and I love them. Fairy gardens, quite a few fairy gardens. So if you have kids, that amuses them to see the different fairy gardens in everybody's gardens. Water features. So this was a popular style. They had rocks where they drill a hole through it and have the fountain coming out the top. I saw several of these. This is another one, just a single large rock. This is probably about a 4-foot tall rock. So I just can imagine what it took to get that placed. It's actually a fountain, water's coming out the top. Here's a fountain made with, if you've ever done the hypertufa leaves with rhubarb leaves, someone made this. See fountains in all styles and sizes. Traditional fountain here. Another traditional one. So yeah, you have classic fountains and then you have more contemporary modern ones where you can buy this whole fixture, just plug it in with water and you're good to go. Or funky ones, people do their own thing. A lot of creativity. So the fountains, but they also have a lot of pools. So, and most of those pools seem to have koi in them. They can range from a small one in the corner to a really small one just in the middle of the patio. To a very large one. This is the Buffalo Japanese Gardens, and we were on a walk and it just took us by those gardens, which are also listed. So stop in and see the Buffalo Japanese Gardens. More ponds. So you can see they had the most incredible fish. And so you can talk to a lot of the owners and they'll tell you most of them will keep their fish in the ground over the winter. Some people actually bring them inside in the basement. Everybody has a different story. And if they keep them outside, they have to have a bubbler and, so that there's a open water, open to the air for the oxygen circulation. But if you have any questions, you just ask the owners and they're happy to tell you what they do to make it work. Lots of pools. Some people just had a tiny little rill running through, not a very big water feature at all. This was interesting. This garden was a really small backyard, and you can see that he has the the water going on. It's hard to tell from the picture, it's actually dripping down into the water, but then on the right-hand side, if you look in the corner, you can see the water's coming out of there and actually goes all the way around the house. They had this tiny little, just rill of water going from the back all the way around to the front of the house. Waterfalls and big, beautiful koi. Yeah, the owners will also tell you whether they have problems with herons or animals or what bothers their koi or doesn't bother their koi. Structures. So if you wanted to think about building an arbor or a pergola, this is a great place to go for ideas because you can see so many examples. Another arbor with roses. Why have an ordinary fence when you can have an extraordinary fence? I mean, the fence itself is interesting and all of the window boxes that they have on it. Another interesting fence with a lot of artwork on it. This is very old antique fence that went with a historic carriage house somewhere in Buffalo. Really beautiful. Garden sheds. This is the Shrieking Shack, sometimes known as the most famous garden shed in Buffalo, owned by Jim Charlier, who has he made this like a Harry Potter themed shack, and it's got a lot of stuff that's interesting to kids. It's actually quite interesting garden shed. But you can see, you know, people have taken their garden sheds and just put on little details here, like the molding on the trim at the top to make it more interesting. Or here, you know, just paint the garden door, paint the shed doors, liven it up. Some people had sheds or kids' playhouse. So I think this one was actually a little kids' playhouse. And this, oh man, this was, if my kids were little, they would have gone nuts. This was great. Just a beautiful little kid's house. And they let the visitors go through it. This little girl was having a ball. Just so beautiful if you look at all the paint on that. There's lots of pergola structures. People want to spend time outside and on their patio. So this will show you some of the examples of what people have done. Some people buy a pergola like this, that you just buy it from Home Depot and install it and set it up. And a lot of other people made it themselves to fit their space. And you can see here, this person had like water out. Quite a few of the gardens will offer refreshments, you know, water or drinks to people. Some people have snacks, but it's amazing how many people put out drinks. So when you're out there for like 4 hours, you do get thirsty. This is another pergola. I think this might be wisteria, but you can see the ceiling is actually made of all these vines, which creates a nice mood inside. This was something in the backyard, and if you look closely, it's hard to see from this picture, but they actually, under the structure, they put all these bottles in with lights, so it's all lit up and kind of magical in the evening. So once again, just different styles, different slats, different lattice work. A lot of people use curtains to give themselves some privacy. This was interesting just because they wanted to have shade, but they didn't want to put a lot of space. So they have this, it's just got a, you know, you can see on the left-hand side, it's just one pole and it folds down to almost nothing. It's a very tiny footprint, but yet gives them the shade they need to eat out on their side patio. Nice double bench, an arbor. This person had a arbor, and if you notice, they're growing grapes on top, so they get quite a few grapes. I just like this awning over the door. Have anybody seen this in the Buffalo Garden Walk? Talk about unusual structures. This sphere in the back that they built, it's pretty incredible. It's really unique. I've never seen anything like it. And as you can see, inside of it is actually a seating area. See? So you will see all kinds of things that you never expected to see. Plants. Obviously, we go on the tour to see plants. I am a plant collector, I'm a plantaholic, but even I see things that I don't have and have to have. So this was honeysuckle major wheeler. I kept seeing how beautiful it was, and so I now have one too. Coleus. Coleus is everywhere and so absolutely amazing. And every time I go on this, I'm like, why don't I have Coleus? And it seems like it's just really had a resurgence the last few years. Maybe it's because some of the new Coleus are so colorful. And unlike flowers which fade, you know, the foliage is always there. But there are just amazing Coleus. And I am going to definitely spend some more money this next year on getting Coleus. But beautiful Coleus everywhere. Look at those reds. Also, it's the first time I saw tree lilies about 10 years ago. These are about 6 feet tall, giant lilies. So of course I had to buy those. And it's nice that a lot of people leave the plant tags there. So if you want to know what it is, the plant tag's also there. These are pitcher plants, carnivorous plants. Beautiful begonias. And like I said, if you look around, you can often see the tag. This is a dark elderberry, ornamental elderberry, but look at that foliage. And also, just like if you look at the trees in the city, a lot of times the newer builds, there's not a lot of space for trees. So you can get these very narrow sentinel trees that will fit in the spots. Or this tree in the back is a weeping Alaskan cedar. And I saw this about 15 years ago and liked it so much that I bought 7 of them that I now have in my garden. Japanese maples. And you can see some of the Japanese maples get quite large, which is also good to see when you're planting your garden. How big are these trees going to actually get? This is a Paulownia, which is it's borderline hardy here, but you can see it's very tropical looking with huge leaves. And this was a giant plane tree. I'm not sure, or sycamore. I'm not sure how old this is, but it was just an absolute monster tree. And also, just look, you can see the interesting architecture everywhere in Buffalo. A lot of interesting houses. Everyone wants crocosmia. Once you see it, you gotta have it. The newer coneflowers that come in all the different colors, the dark yellow, light yellow, orange, if you want to see what they're actually like, you can talk to them. It is interesting. I have found that a lot of them don't come back for me. And I talked to the gardeners in Buffalo and they pretty much say the same thing. So it's good to know. They might be a short-lived, you might get 2 years out of them, 3 years out of them, but most of the non-standard ones just don't seem to have the same hardiness that the regular old purple and white ones do. This is an annual Browalia. So it's like, oh, I need to get some different annuals. They've got some beautiful ones. Geranium Roseanne. I kept seeing this and going, oh, I already have geraniums, but I had to get that one. Lisianthus. Look at those lilies. Oh, you can almost smell them, can't you? Oh, they were so nice. The Japanese forest grass. Hostas. Buffalo area has the Western New York Hosta Society, which is probably one of the more active hosta societies in the country. And when you go through Buffalo, you will see all kinds of hostas. I mean, if you're into hostas, they've got everything. There's a lot of narrow spaces between houses, and they often will plant that little crack with hostas. And you can see here hostas as well as in the front, it's fronted by begonias, the tuberous begonias. I thought this was interesting. There's just like a 6-inch crack between the fence and the sidewalk, but yet the hostas are thriving with no care, no water, no nothing, can't kill them. Or this, the guy said he keeps his boat in the backyard, but yet he plants his hostas here, and when he needs to, he can just bring his boat right over the top of those hostas, no problem. So if you're into hostas, you can go and see all different kinds. Not all just the strips. Some people have just a big, huge hosta garden. That's all they have. They specialize in hostas, and you can see some very unusual ones. I think that might be Liberty. Once again, it's like you see a beautiful one, you go, oh, I gotta have that, and then goes on my shopping list. Another thing is to look at is paving materials or walkways. When you think about putting a path in, you're like, oh, what kind of path do I want? And you know, this, you can see everything here. So from bricks to flagstones and grass, more flagstones, pea gravel or small gravel. This, they had a nice selection of moss growing between the cracks. I think these are those steppables that they sell in the nurseries. Yeah. Hexagonal pavers, a little different. These are natural stone pavers. And in this case, the person, if you look on the bottom, it's actually 4x4 posts. And I asked, and they didn't want to go through the hassle of putting in a whole foundation and excavating and the drainage and the landscape fabric. And they just said, oh, we just put in a bunch of 4x4 posts and it's fine. It deals with frost heave, and they didn't have to do any prep. They just put it there and it works. So, and this, one of my friends loved this idea because she was struggling with how to put in a walkway over tree roots. And she didn't want to excavate down in her tree roots. So she realized with this, she could actually build it up and float them over the top of the tree roots. So if you're looking for, if you have a problem to solve, somebody solved it in Buffalo. This was a poured concrete walkway, but they had all these little leaves in it everywhere. It just made it so much more interesting than standard gray. This person remodeled their kitchen and they took out their island countertop and they didn't know what to do with it, so they put it in their deck. And this person wanted to have the effect of a rug without having a rug, because this way they don't have to worry about getting wet, so they just painted a rug on their floor. I'd like this in that they had small little plants coming out of the stairs. I thought that was a nice touch. And here you can see it's done on a bigger scale. This was, I think that was ornamental strawberries. But just, you know, instead of having just a plain concrete stairs, they've really just planted in that little teeny crack. This was wrought iron, which I just loved on these steps. See, color everywhere. Well, I have boring steps. I don't have any steps. I wish I did. I'd paint them. Okay, so then you also just get ideas in general from going around the garden. In this case, somebody was very into golfing, and you can see how they managed to set up their own little putting green. And here is a bocce ball court. Uh, so you see a little bit of everything. I like this. How do you hide your trash cans? Well, this person took some old doors, painted them the color of the house, and just set up this folding doors to hide their trash cans. Here's a rain barrel. They painted it up to make it pretty. Instead of having an ugly rain barrel, you now have this something nice, something attractive. Doghouse. One of the nicest dog houses I've seen. Of course, it matched the house with the trim and the colors and everything. I bought a bubble machine. Some of the gardens had bubbles, and I just liked it so much. Now, and then I had a garden tour this summer, and I just totally forgot to get out my bubble machine. But I have one now for fun. Isn't this clever? This is a wall, and the guy painted the wall to give you that perspective as if it goes on. But you can see it's just a wall. But very clever, really opens it up, makes it feel quite a bit larger than it actually is. This is, they replaced the sidewalks in Buffalo and they tore out the old sidewalks. And this person took a bunch of chunks and see, they made a retaining wall. And here's another example of someone who took those old concrete sidewalks and they made a paving wall. So, you know, we're using a lot of materials and getting the building materials for free. Yeah, we saw that earlier. Bat house. You want to get a bat house? One thing I saw a lot of was privacy curtains. People would have them on their front patio. Sometimes they said they'd have it open, sometimes they'd have it closed. It would depend on the time of day, whether they wanted shade or sun or airflow. But a lot of people put curtains either on their porch or their pergola. This was up on a second-story balcony. So, you know, sometimes you just want a little privacy from the neighbors and you just need to have a couple curtains to screen it out and you can feel like you're alone. This person had built an trellis and you can see they're growing grapes. So you can grow grapes successfully in Buffalo. Just an example of people decorating their fences, all kinds of stuff. I love all the different rocks that people use to edge their gardens. Some people would collect them from different places. Here you've got the rotten rock as an edging. These are the turtle rocks. And in this case, I really like the edging. So it was some concrete sections, but it just made it such a nice border between the garden and the grass, and you could just ride your lawnmower right over that concrete edge. Nice wide edge, stop the grass from creeping through. Now there's several different gardens that you can see. This one, the Darwin Martin House, which was a Frank Lloyd Wright designed house. The gardens are open to the public at any time, which I hadn't realized. So you can go there and you can see the gardens. You can't go in the house unless you pay for it, but the gardens are free and beautiful. So this is walking through to get to the side gardens. They have amazing planters. Look at these ferns and callas. Once again, you can see the flower pots on the pedestal, really nice. So these are the gardens at the Darwin Martin House. And the sculptures, I believe, were by a Japanese artist called Jun Taneko. There's that geranium Roseanne. I kept seeing it, had to get it. Now I'm so happy I did. This is a new garden. I think they called it the Eightfold Path Garden or something. But very nice restrained color palette, all reds. And this garden was full of unusual plants. So they had the beautiful koi pond. This is the same garden you can see in the back. These are their Broalia tender plants. But yeah, everything in this garden was so well done. Now this garden I thought was interesting. They had a circle theme going on. If you look in the background, you can see the porch railing has all the circles in it. And then they had all this art around the outside that was also full of circles. So they had this, the railings going up to the front had the circles in them. Spheres in their hell strip. So yeah, circles, circles, circles. And this person was a cat lover. This person's garden I was amused by because it had everything cats, 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 cats. So whatever you have, take it and run away with it. That's what this person did. Lots of cats. Big cats. Even the little feet on the pots were cats. And I love, this is actually a cat ladder. See? So the cat can actually run up and get to the second story thing. I thought, oh, these spoiled cats, don't let my cat see this. It's gonna feel really deprived when it sees what other people do for their cats. This garden here is incredible. I think like the next 15 pictures are all from this one garden, and you just can't believe it until you see it. I don't know, has anyone seen this one? You would know it if you had. I mean, starting outside with the fence, you can see the coneflowers. It's a classic fence. You'll see it in a lot of pictures of Buffalo Gardens, but this garden, wow. So it's a long, deep lot. It's not very large, but there is so much to see. You could spend easily an hour in just this one small garden. There's so much to see. They do a lot with annuals. A lot with annuals. But look at the color. They are not afraid of color. And once again, all of those coleus. Some nice seating areas. And see how the coleus, it really gives solid red there. And that's also irisine, hardy begonias. It's angel wings, a senecio. Yeah, one of the things they have a lot of is these foam heads, and then they scoop out the top and plant succulents in, and you'll see them all different colors throughout the garden. So here's like a purple one. And then here you can see there's orange and red, yellow, blue. They all have their own personality. And then in the back, just, just kind of fun. We all need a little ants to ruin our picnic, right? If you had ants that big, they would ruin your picnic. I thought they were fun. But it's like the detail in this place was so incredible. I mean, if you look at the table in the middle and the plant that sits on it, I mean, just that planter alone. And then in the background on the fence, they have framed pictures. A lot of them are Buffalo Garden Walk. They put out a poster every year. And so a lot of those framed pictures were, see, of the garden walk that year. So every year there's a new poster for the garden walk. But yeah, they big, bold color. I love that combination, purple and yellow. And then in the way back, you get away from the color and they actually have a calm, cool hosta place. So you got a fountain with hostas, another fountain, a gargoyle, water. Yes, the kids love the dog. He was very popular with the kids. Not much grass there, but you can see it's a lawn. That's the entire grass. All the rest of the yard is planted. And this is another absolutely stunning garden by this woman and her two daughters, Fran, Jean, and Lynn. And it's a large garden. It's in, it's in downtown Buffalo, but they have, I believe, they also own an empty lot next door. So it's an extra large garden for Buffalo. And this garden has everything. So it's going here, you have sun, you have shade. Here's your hosta garden. So here you're going from the shady part to the sunny part. It has a water feature, a little waterfalls and a pond. It has art. It even has a totem pole. I mean, this garden has everything. And there's a little sign at the bottom that tells you who the artist was who made the totem pole. But the plantings here were just exquisite. So, I mean, it's so well manicured. It makes you feel kind of bad about your own garden when you see it, because it is just so beautifully maintained. You can just come here and look at their combinations and take some ideas. This is interesting. It's if you look at this, if you look at the grass in this picture, you'll see a little line there at the bottom. They actually use artificial turf in several parts of their garden because it's shaded. And they said that with the traffic and the shade, the grass just didn't hold up to the tours. And but when you're going through it, you don't even notice. You're just going around, you're looking at the flowers, you don't even tell. But you can see down here, the bottom part was the real grass and the top part is the fake grass. But I thought that was pretty clever. You just don't even notice it. And that way they solve their problem with mud and shade and traffic. Unusual daylilies. Lots of lilies. Oh, it smelled so wonderful here. And the phlox. So yeah, this is all the same garden. So gardensbuffaloniagara.com. What we did was talk today about Garden Walk Buffalo, but they have a whole bunch of other gardens tours that they do. There is Open Gardens Western New York, which is Thursdays and Fridays in July. And it's a much smaller subset of Buffalo Garden Walk, but the people who participate are generally pretty hardcore gardeners. And if you want to see some spectacular gardens, go to Open Gardens, Western New York. Also, Buffalo Garden Walk is in Buffalo. The Open Gardens, Western New York is a much broader area. So it also has Hamburg and Orchard Park, Amherst, different areas. And you can see they have the East Side Garden Walk, Artists in Open Gardens, the garden art sale. So if you want, just go to gardensbybuffaloniagara.com and they have a link to everything that's happening in the area. Very useful. And put this on your calendar for next year, the last weekend in July. I hope to see some of you there. I will be there. I go every year. I don't miss it. Any questions?
A minute. Yeah, I want to thank Brenda first before we get any questions, because I want to stop maybe I'll stop the recording. So it's, anyway, Brenda, thank you. This was a fabulous presentation. I know you take tons of pictures, so I just want to thank you for the time you spent going through your own photos and putting this presentation together for us.